Welcome back to this series on using Law Insider to its maximum. I'm Mike Whalen. What we're going to do now, I talked in the last video about the different doors through which you can get into the Law Insider universe as if you're trying to come into a pantry and find a specific can of soup. The first door that we'll talk about is my favorite way to get into Law Insider, and that is clauses. So let's share the screen and we'll talk through that. When I land on Law Insider, as you can see here, I notice these different, we'll call them doors, as ways of entry to get into Law Insider. We're going to focus, like I said, on this one, clauses. So let's click there. What you see when you land on here is a listing of different sample clauses. The reason they're ordered the way they are is because we have the most data for this particular one, so notices is at the top. There's also an alphabetical index at the top. It's a bit hard to navigate because, as you'll see, sometimes people just put A and apostrophes in the middle of the air, so that can be a little tough to get to. If you want to go and find a particular type but don't want to go through the list, then what I would encourage you to do is just to type out, let's say, arbitration. It'll start to autofill for you here and over on the right as well. But if you're over in this all section, you can see, you could just scroll down and you'll see arbitration as one of the most active clauses. Now, we'll talk about the different features that are on this page, but I want to introduce you to it really quickly. What you see when you land on the clauses page, on the left side is a sidebar that we'll talk about, but here on the right side, this is the bulk of the information that you're looking for. This particular arbitration clause, this really long one right here that even has dots on the end to tell you it keeps going. This is the most common language. This is in a group of more than 1,000 that is sort of a grouping of language that is similar. So what you'll see if you go into one of these, let's say we go into the see all. What you see here is that first result that is sort of the baseline for the common language. But as you scroll through, you'll see different samples that are similar but have slight changes, slight differences. So, for example, you see with the different red lines here that there's changed language. There's some added language that you didn't expect to see there, maybe, and it'll make clear what the different language is. So that's why they're grouped this way so that you can see what the changed language is. Let's go back to the results, because when you're on this arbitration clause here, what you might want to see is what's going on here. Where in a contract, what kind of contract is this in? What you can do is go down to sample. This will lead you over to a section that we'll talk about later, the contract page. And what you can see here is that particular sample is in a participation agreement. You can go down and find it. You can use the table of contents, which we'll talk about later, to get to the specific arbitration clause. But for now, let's go back to this because I want to show you this split view. If you see all of these different results with the different arbitration groupings, again, of these different types that are similar, you can see there's 998 that are similar to this language and so on. Up here, you can hit split view. And what you'll see is as you highlight each one of these arbitration clauses, it will give you the context on the left. This is the contract that this particular arbitration clause exists in. Right? So the context is on the left for as you flip down to each one, it'll give you the different samples in that split view. Okay? So let's exit the split view real quick so that you can see the sidebar here. What I wanted to introduce you to real quick was this sidebar. You can filter down by further filters that we'll talk about as well later through contract type, jurisdiction. So let's just give you an example real quick. Let's go to the contract type, and you can either do a drop down or you can type it in here. It will autocomplete. Let's look for an employment agreement, and I'm going to search that. Okay? So now I'm seeing a bunch of different types of employment agreements, these arbitration clauses that are from employment agreements. Let's filter down again. I'll go in and just type in, let's say, New York. Okay? So there are 599 results that match all of these filters. The filter that we're talking about, an arbitration clause that is found within an employment agreement in New York, and now you're seeing those results on the right. Okay, so this page that you're seeing right here is our advanced search page, which we'll talk about more later. But the point is that once you land on arbitrations, you can filter down by the different types. And here you would click right through again, you would see the arbitration clause in context in a contract. So that is, to show you again, that is the clauses page. I want you to end up on that. The thing that I really like that we will talk about as we go through this is how you save the particular clauses that you like. So let's take this particular one in this sample. Let's say I really like this. I'm going to hit save. And because I've done this before, I'll show you how to do this. But because I've done this before, I've got one that's called arbitration. So I really like that. Now that's saved to my list later. That's all you need to know for right now for getting into the arbitration clause. In the next video, we're going to talk about another door you can go through, which is the contracts tool. We'll see you then.